Hello and welcome to this Filbert Flies review of JetStream Design's Milan Linate scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me on approach to runway 36 and, as always, I'm starting with an approach to give you a look at the surrounding area and the opportunity to gauge the performance of this add-on on my computer. You can find my system specs and graphics settings in the video description down below. I'll let you enjoy the landing in peace, and I'll speak to you again once I'm parked up at a gate, from where we'll take a look at the airport in different weather and lighting conditions, and I'll finish up by giving you my opinion on it. Welcome to Linate. We're parked up here on stand 1 and we'll begin by taking a look at the jetway connecting to the aircraft. So not the greatest job. The jetway itself does go through the aircraft skin, as does the hood, and is also slightly too far back, so it isn't aligning with the door properly. But onwards and upwards, let's take a look at the texturing and the modelling of the jetway and of the terminal building. So this looks very realistic. It looks very close to the jetways at Linate, having had a look at Google Satellite View, and there's some really nice detailing on the jetway structures. I really like this animated ramp worker on the stairs, and the texturing of this concrete pillar is first class. We've got really nice crisp textures which have been nicely weathered, and both the advertising and the concrete panels themselves look just right. The upper part of the jetway has tinted glass and a relatively nice interior. As we go inside, you'll notice that the tint does unfortunately disappear, but you know, it's a very small issue. And overall, it looks really good. Onwards now to the terminal building itself, and once again the texture work is pretty impressive. These concrete panels on the outside look really nice. They do get a bit blurry as you get up close, but the resolution is plenty high enough to look good when you arrive in an aircraft. I really like the glasswork on the windows. You'll notice some scratches up here and some other imperfections as we move along. The roof is not the highest resolution. It doesn't have a huge amount of detailed modelling on it, but it looks plenty good enough in my opinion. Let's pop inside and have a look at the interior. So we've got a pretty good amount of detail in here. We've got departure screens, seating, and some advertising hoardings, as well as some signage. The textures on the floor and ceiling are not the highest resolution, but in terms of performance versus looking good, I think they've got the balance about right. Little bit of flickering around the edges of the windows, but that's something that I've seen at a lot of airports, and I don't think there's much that can be done about it. This part of the terminal looks very good as well. The tilework on the outside is nicely weathered, and the green structures, which I didn't mention earlier on, look absolutely fantastic too. Again, we've got a little bit of weathering, a few imperfections in the corners here. It looks very, very lifelike indeed. And we've got 3 whole floors of interior modelling here. Let's just take a quick look at this top one. Very nice. And these windows, unlike those on the upper part of the jetways, do retain their tint from the inside, which is nice to see. This Milano Linate signage looks really good. Nice and crisp, excellent quality modelling, and fantastic texturing as well. This hangar, dubbed the Emporio Armani hangar for obvious reasons, looks every bit as good as the terminal building. Once again, we've got high quality modelling and crisp texture work. In fact, all of the buildings around the edge of the airport look really good. They don't all have transparent glass, but all use PBR materials, and the opaque window textures look pretty convincing. The control tower looks very nice indeed. It's very well modelled, very well textured, although this little globe thing on top of it is a little bit jagged and could have done with a little bit more smoothing, but that's really nitpicky. It certainly looks the part when you're on approach or when you're taxiing around the airport. This is the west apron, and once again I'm really impressed with the quality of the modelling and texturing on these hangars and other peripheral buildings around its outside. The airport features a good amount of ground clutter, which brings a bit of life to the place. Airstairs, luggage dollies, tractors, all of that sort of thing, both around the terminal building itself and across the remote stands. We have a number of static aircraft included, both static airliners across the remote stands, and also, as you will have noticed probably, some business jets on the west apron. But for those of you who hate static aircraft, I have some very exciting news. You can actually turn these off within the Contrail app just by clicking a button. So really, everyone's a winner with this scenery. Though it is worth bearing in mind that if you end up buying it through the marketplace, which I imagine it will appear in at some date in the future, this may not be an option. The ground textures at this airport are, in general, very nice indeed. There are 1 or 2 errors here and there. You'll notice the wing of a ghost aeroplane underneath our left engine here, and the colour matching isn't perfect, but almost everywhere the materials used match the real airport very closely indeed. There's a good amount of dirt around the place, plenty of little oil spillages and the like, and while the textures look a little bit blurry when you get super close in a drone, from an aircraft cockpit they look incredibly lifelike. The ground markings look fantastic as well. Just the right shade of yellow, slightly grubby, very clear. Couldn't ask for more. And the 3D taxiway signage also looks great. The runway looks absolutely fantastic. The font used on the numbering is spot on, the materials used match the real airport perfectly, and all of the markings are 100% accurate. The only slight disappointment is that these chevrons leading up to the runway 36 threshold should be yellow according to the Google satellite imagery, and also there's a colour change between these two materials here which doesn't appear to exist in real life. But come on, that really is nitpicking. The landside entrance to the airport looks very good indeed. We've got a nice bit of elevated roadway with some fantastic railings, some 3D vehicles, and some acceptable, if not fantastic, textures on the entrances. The lighting across the apron and the remote stands is absolutely fantastic, incredibly realistic, and the light coming from these terminal buildings looks very good indeed as well. JetStream designs really are the masters in getting light to look good as it comes through transparent glass. You'll notice that the tint remains. Now that does mean that when you go inside and look out, the view is slightly less impressive, but as I've said in previous reviews, compromises have to be made with tinted glass, and I think this is a good compromise. Something that looks great from outside both day and night and looks good from the inside during the day is better than something that looks dodgy from the outside at night. The landside lighting is really very good as well. But unfortunately there are some fairly major issues with the taxiway lighting. You'll notice here that the taxiway edge line lights just come straight across the grass, and there are a few other instances of that around the airport. There are also some gaps in the centerline lighting. This is one of the most notable. This exit taxiway doesn't have any lights leading to it off the runway. And there are other gaps across the airport in the centerline lighting as well. So this is something that does require some urgent attention from the developer. Here's Linate in the rain, and the ground textures look fantastic when they're wet, but we do have the usual issue of the transparent glass popping, and I was really hoping that might have been something that Asobo would have fixed in the latest patch, but alas, not yet. And here's Linate in the snow. It's not dreadful, there are some nice features. I love the little patches of snow over these red lines which look very realistic, but it's not great either. We've got some pretty harsh transitions between the snow covered areas and the areas which have no snow on them at all. It's particularly apparent here where this no entry sign is half covered, and I know snow's difficult to work with in this simulator, but we have seen better from JetStream designs themselves with Non-Atlantique. So yes, a little bit of a disappointment, but at least the runway's clear. So, what do I think of JetStream Design's Milan Linate? Well, I would describe it as almost amazing. The modelling and texturing of the buildings is absolutely brilliant. The ground textures are 95% brilliant and just let down by one or two small anomalies. The terminal and apron night lighting is brilliant, and the overall atmosphere is brilliant. I'm very impressed by the quality and quantity of ground clutter and static aircraft, and I'm even more impressed by how easy it is to turn the statics on or off. But there are problems. The misaligned jetways. I tested all three of them and they all suffer from the same issue. The unconvincing snow, and most significantly, the bizarre problem with the taxiway centerline and edge lighting. I'm confident these things will be fixed in due course, with the possible exception of the snow, and then I would recommend this product without hesitation. As things stand, I still think it's a good add-on, and I'd still recommend it because it feels incredibly lifelike, but with reservations. I wouldn't recommend flying here at night, and I'd suggest you park at one of the remote stands. So there you have it. I hope you found this review useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and give at least a passing thought to making a little donation via Streamlabs to help support my channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Filbert Flies.